What's going on, y'all? This is Clarence Jr. breaking down the Bulldogs, and we are here for episode 4 of breaking down the CIAA. We're not going to waste no time. We're going to get straight to it because we got a lot to get to and a lot to talk about going into breaking down last week and going into this week. Let me go ahead and turn this down. All right, so let's jump right into the last week's action. The faster we get through that, is the faster we can talk about what's coming up this next week. Let me go ahead and share this screen. There we go. All right. So we're going to start off with my alma mater, Bowie State University. Not only that, but we're going to start off with the end of the game and then break down what happened in the game. So with 1 minute left in the game, Bowie State is down a point, 16-17. And they have a chance to go up with less than a minute left. And unfortunately, they don't come up with the pass. But however, this is a very good and entertaining game. Here we are late in the second quarter. And we have a touchdown pass from Kevin Taylor to number 4. Elijah Alexander. No. Ty Lyles to put the score at 10-7 Bowie State. However, Livingstone would score right before the half, and they would go into halftime up 17-10. This is one of their first half touchdowns. Livingstone did not score in the second half. Turns out they didn't need to. Here we are. We have Kevin Taylor to Antoine Banks for the 31-yard touchdown pass that brung Bowie within the point. Now, what happens is the kicker appeared to be injured on a field goal earlier in the game, so Bowie State went for 2 in a wildcat formation. Did not get it. They're down a point. They give the ball to Livingstone up 1. Livingstone gets all the way down to the goal line. 4th down, they decide to go for it instead of kicking the field goal. They get stopped. Bowie gets the ball, and that's when you see that drop pass that results in Livingstone winning this game by a point. So let's look at the stats from this game. In this game, Bowie State had 12 rushing first downs, only 4 passing. They had 160 rushing yards. Livingstone had less than 70. Bowie State had 104 total passing yards. Livingstone had 128. Bowie State had 260 yards of total offense. Livingstone had less than 200 yards of total offense. So just think about this. They have less than 60 yards, less than 70 yards rushing, less than 200 yards of total offense, and they still win the game. Time of possession, Livingstone won time of possession by about 5 minutes. Bowie State was 5 of 17 on 3rd and 4th down. Livingstone was 6 of 16 on 3rd and 4th down. Kevin Taylor, 12 of 27 for 104 yards and 2 touchdowns. However, he was sacked 5 times and hurried another 10 times. Maximus Jones, 15 carries, 122 yards, averaged 8 yards a carry. You average 8 yards a carry, you should probably get more than 15 touches, but hey, whatever. Elijah Alexander for Livingstone, 11 of 15, 73 yards, 2 touchdowns. Trayvon Jackson, 5 receptions, 78 yards, and a touchdown. We move on to Shaw versus Livingstone. Let me just stop right here because this was the very first time ever in life I picked Lincoln to win the football game, and Lincoln let me down big time. Mind you, Shaw had just lost on the road to Ferrum and gave Ferrum their first ever Division II win. They go to Lincoln. Mind you, they scored 6 points at Ferrum, who just moved up from D2. They go to Lincoln, and let me just show you what happened. This is crazy. Alexander Marsh to LaJohn Walton for a 40-yard touchdown pass to put Shaw up 7-0. Mind you, they scored 6 points all of last week. Alexander Marsh again to Keyshawn Powell. 32-yard touchdown pass, put Shaw up 13-0. Lincoln trying to get on the board and intercepted by Shaw. Shaw goes into the half up 13-0. Late in the second half, Alexander Marsh with a 7-yard touchdown run puts Shaw up 22-0. Once again, Shaw scored 6 points last week. Lincoln finally gets on the board with a 27-yard touchdown pass from Hamas Duran to Justice Williams to bring the score to 22-7. They score again with Rondarius Gregory, 25-yard touchdown run. Scores now 22-14. However, Shaw was not done. Trey Thorpe with a 3-yard touchdown run to put Shaw up 29-14. Once again, Shaw scored 6 points last week. So, Kyrie Tyson catches a 14-yard touchdown pass from Hamas Doran, and Lincoln is back in the game 29-21, but Shaw puts it away with a 5-yard touchdown run from Trey Thorpe to put the final score at 36-21. Once again, they scored 6 points last week, scored 36 this week at Lincoln. An embarrassing loss for Lincoln. Shaw has 13 rushing first downs and 7 passing first downs. Shaw has 215 rushing yards and 165 passing yards. They have 380 yards of total offense. They were nowhere near that last week. Shaw had 12 penalties. Livingstone said, I can do you one better. They had 17 at home. Shaw won time of possession. Shaw was only 2 of 12 on 3rd and 4th down. And Lincoln was only 2 of 11. Alexander Marsh of Shaw was 13 of 22 for 165 yards and 2 touchdowns. Trey Thorpe, 19 carries, 115 yards, 2 touchdowns, 6 yards a carry. LaJohn Walton, 8 catches, 108 yards for a touchdown. Hamas Doran, 23 of 43. They love to throw the ball. 269 yards, 2 touchdowns, but 3 interceptions. Wayne Allen has 7 catches for a $103. Man. Next, we have Johnson C. Smith at Union. Early in the game, Kelvin Durham, 2-yard touchdown run to tie the game up at 7. However, Curtis Allen, 6-yard touchdown run to put Union up 14-7. Not done yet. We have Curtis Allen again. 12-yard touchdown run to put Union up 21-10. Union would go on to win this game 28-10. Let's look at the numbers of this game. Union, 11 rushing first downs and 5 passing. It was basically the opposite for Johnson C. Smith. Union had 136 passing yards. JCSU had just under 200. But here's the issue. Union had 336 rushing yards. No, 336 total yards. They had 200 rushing yards. JCSU had 109. Both teams had over 10 penalties. JCSU actually won time of possession by a couple of minutes, but they were only 5 of 13 on 3rd and 4th down. Union was only 2 of 9 on 3rd and 4th down. Kelvin Durham, 20 of 35, 193 yards, 0 touchdowns, 1 interception. Brevy Caldwell, 8 catches, 94 yards. Now, if you're going to beat Union, the only way to beat Union, you have to sell out on the run. Because I said it before, I'll say it again. R.J. Morales is the weakest link, the quarterback. He had 5 total completions for the game, but it was for 136 yards. Here's how they win. Curtis Allen, 114 yards and 4 touchdowns. 223 total rushing yards as a team. You have to stop Union from running the ball and make R.J. Rosales win the game. They're undersized, slow, not great of an arm quarterback. You got to sell out and make them one-dimensional. That's the only chance. You cannot let them run the ball because they will. Next, we have Fayetteville State and Elizabeth City State. Both teams came into this game winless. Fayetteville State is up 7-0. They go up 14-0 with a 1-yard touchdown run from Bryce Council. Later on in the second quarter, Damari Daniels with a 3-yard touchdown run to put Fayetteville State up 21-0. ECSU finally gets on the board with a block punt returned by Sean Worthy. That would be their only points, their only score of the game. Halfway through the third, Zayden Watson will score on a 6-yard touchdown pass. Fayetteville State goes on to win this game 51-8. Fayetteville State had 19 first downs to ECSU's 6. 12 passing first downs. 145 rushing yards. ECSU less than 50. 300 passing yards. ECSU less than 70. Man, what a beatdown. Well, 300 total yards. ECSU had less than 70 yards for the game. A complete and utter beatdown. Both FSU had 9 penalties in the game. They won time of possession by 5 minutes. They were 8 of 18 on third down and fourth down. ECSU converted 1 of 16 third or fourth downs. 1. Damari Daniels of FSU, 15 to 25, 260, 3 touchdowns. Zayden Watson, 7 catches, 134 yards, 2 touchdowns. Christopher Perkins, QB for ECSU, 8 of 16 for 59 passing yards for the game. A complete and utter beatdown by Fayetteville State. Last game of the day. Well, not the last game of the day, but the last game of this show. Last CIAA game we're going to cover from last week. Virginia State, Winston-Salem State. Halfway through the first quarter, scores at 0. Dalen lead to Jaden Grimes for the 4-yard touchdown pass. Winston-Salem State is up 7-0. Late in the second quarter, R.J. Matthews to Malik Hunter for the touchdown pass. Scores now even at 10. Early in the third, R.J. Matthews to Brandon Ross. VSU is now up 17-13. Late in the third, Dalen lead to Deloach, 19-yard touchdown pass to cut the lead down to 7, 27-20. Marquis Smith from R.J. Matthews, late in the third, to put State up 34-20. Here we are, late in the game. 1-point game because Winston-Salem State missed an extra point. They have to get a stop here to get the ball back. Otherwise, State is going to run out the clock. However, they do not get the stop. Quarterback keeper, first down, run out the clock, win for Virginia State. Let's look at this. Is the second time this year WSSU has needed to get a stop to get the ball back, and they could not get it done. The first time was against Tuskegee. All right. Both teams had 20 first downs. However, VSU had 267 rushing yards. Man. They also had 137 passing yards. WSSU had 338 passing yards. All right. Both teams had over 400 yards of total offense. Both teams only had 3 penalties. VSU won time of possession by 5 minutes. VSU was 10 of 14 on third and fourth down. That's really good, in case you didn't know. WSSU was 7 of 12 on third and fourth down. That's not bad, but it's not as good as 10 to 14. RJ Matthews, 17 for 25, 137 yards, and 4 touchdown passes. Brandon Rose, 19 carries, 130 yards, no touchdowns. Dalen Lee, 21 of 30, 338 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception. K. Washington, 4 catches for 98 yards. Jahari Mitchell, 4 catches for 95 yards. All right. Those are the scores and the highlights from week 3 in the CIAA. Let's look into these comments. I don't know what that means. Somebody explain that to me. What does stake raid mean? I'm not 100% sure. Not sure what that means. Anyway, let's continue. So, congratulations are in order. Let me bring this up. Where are we at? All right. Former Bowie State Bulldog quarterback gets his first win as a head coach, as the head coach of the Shaw University Bears. Shout out to Lamar Manigo, getting his first win as a football coach as Shaw goes to Lincoln and puts the smackdown on him. Shout out to him. All right. Let's go ahead and bring this up. Let's talk about next week's games, and let's give out some picks for next week. So, let me make sure this is big enough so everybody can see it. Hey, yo, pause. All right, you know what I mean. All right. We do it like this. Somebody help me out. What does stake raid mean? I'm not 100% sure. Anyway, let's keep going. All right. This week, Virginia Union is going to Shaw. I'm going to take Virginia Union by 21. I got Union running for over 300 rushing yards. They won't have to pass the ball more than 15 times if they don't want to. They don't have to complete more than 8 passes if they don't want to. Virginia Union big versus Shaw. WSSU at Bowie State. Listen, do I need to say it? Do I need to say it? Seriously. Bowie State over WSSU at home. Coach Kyle Jackson gets one of the biggest wins in his tenure at Bowie State. We have Virginia State at Fayetteville State. Fayetteville State has found an offense. Fayetteville State has a pretty good defense. I'll come back to this game. I'm not sure yet. Bluefield State at Johnson C. Smith. Johnson C. Smith by a whole lot. Kelvin Durham has 3 touchdowns, a combination of throwing and passing. They rushed for over 250 yards. They passed for another 180, if not 200. They have around 500 yards of total offense. Johnson C. Smith destroys Bluefield State. Now, Lincoln at Livingstone. This is a very interesting game to me. Very interesting. Lincoln is terrible defensively. I mean, terrible. However, they love to throw the ball, and they throw it pretty effectively for the most part. You know what? I think I'm going to. I don't even want to say this because I picked Lincoln last week and they peed in the bed, got blown out at home. But Lincoln at Livingstone, 4 o'clock. They can't stop a nosebleed. Let's see. I'm going to come back to that one. So let me go back to Virginia State at Fayetteville State. Fayetteville State's season is on the line. They are now 1-3 overall, but they only have one conference loss. However, you drop down to 1-4. I mean, season's over. Virginia State at Fayetteville State. If I had to pick this game, I'm not going to lie. These last 2 games, these are tough picks. I'm not 100% sure who I would pick in these 2 games. This is just being real. I got to pick, though. All right. Let's see. I'm going to take Lincoln over Livingstone, and I'm going to take Fayetteville State over Virginia State. So I'm going to take Union over Shaw, Bowie State over WSSU, Fayetteville State over BSU, Johnson C. Smith by a whole lot, and I'm going to take Lincoln to get the road win at Livingstone. This week's picks can either make me or they can break me. It's either going to go real good or real bad. It's going to be no in between. But that's what I have picked for this week. All right. Let me pull something up while I'm right here as well. I'm going to pull up this week's rankings. Every week, the rankings change based on the results of the game. So let me go ahead and find that, and I'll pull that up. All right. Let me go ahead and share that with y'all. Let's go over this week's rankings and why teams are ranked where they are. All right. Let me zoom in on this. Let's see. There we go. All right. So, number 1 is Union. I mean, obviously, they just beat down JCSU, so that's how they got number 1. Virginia State just won a road game at WSSU. That's how they got number 2. JCSU lost, but that was their first loss. They're at 3. Winston-Salem State they lost a close game, put them at 4. Livingstone beat Bowie by a point, put them at 5. Bowie State lost to Livingstone by a point, put them at 6. Fayetteville State finally gets in the win column, blows out ECSU. They're 7. ECSU does not have a win, but once again, these are not the standings. These are just rankings based on what I've seen. And yes, Shaw and Bluefield State have wins. ECSU does not. But I do have ECSU over Bluefield State and over Shaw because of who they beat, number 1, and how these teams have looked over 3 or 4 games. ECSU has looked very competitive in every game except for last week. Bluefield State has looked competitive in 1 game versus a team that is even worse than they are. Shaw has looked very good in 1 game versus a team now in Lincoln who, since Lincoln didn't win the Shaw game, it's really up in the air if who will Lincoln beat. So that's why I have Shaw moving up to 10, Lincoln going down to last. So those are the rankings this week and the rationale based behind them. These will change again based upon the outcomes of the games on Saturday. So that's what we have for you guys today. I appreciate you guys coming through. We're going to go ahead and wrap this up. Peace.